What's up, everybody? Welcome to System Crafters Live. I'm David Wilson, and I'm not having technical difficulties necessarily. I'm just distracted out of sheer tiredness and, well, distractions. But we're here. Welcome to System Crafters Live. This is the weekly live stream where we get together as a community and talk about whatever topic I've come up with for the week. And this week is not really a topic so much as it is a appeal for your forgiveness and me sort of like not really completing a project. That's okay, because it was an ambitious project. We had to give it a shot, and made a lot of missteps along the way. I think we had some fun working on the entry for this game jam. We'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But yeah, I don't think we're really gonna finish out the game jam. I mean, I haven't deployed anything, so the game's not playable. The game really doesn't have anything to play at the moment. But we did sort of learn a bit more about how to use sprightly goblins, at least what I consider to be the correct way. I'm not 100% certain about that yet, but we'll get into it in a minute. Before that, I would like to say hello to the people who are here so far. I see Arnaud, Fade, Blinky Bob, Glenn. I see Big Edie, Alternate Ved joining. Let's see. Hello, Alternate Ved. I see Tentamag over on the YouTube side. There's someone named Treve? Is that how you pronounce your name? Nice to see you. I think it's like maybe the first time I've seen you before. Give me my hello now. This man is demanding a hello. How rude. You come into my stream and you demand me to say hello to you. Where are you, man? Where are you? Just kidding. Hello to Ewig. Let's see. We'll see who shows up on the YouTube side, but I'm happy to see good friends over on the IRC side. If you don't know about the IRC chat, that's what gets stuck up on the screen up there. If you join irc.libra.chat and go to the System Crafters-live chat room, then that's what shows up on the screen. Or you could just go to systemcrafters.net/live, and there's an embedded IRC chat there. Yes, I think Fade should kick out Trev from the channel. I'm just kidding. Probably we should give Trev op status so that he can ban me from the channel. And then it will, continue on the legacy that Case has started by kicking me and banning me from my own channel right before the stream, which is a lot of fun. It says, Trev is my buddy. Look, you're ganging up on me here, okay? What you want me to do? Why would you do that? Because I asked you to. Because I asked you to. Hell, Glenneth. I think that is supposed to mean hello. Yes, hello, Glenneth, says Alternate Ved. All right. Permaban, says Glenneth. I don't know. That's a little bit harsh. I think we wouldn't permaban Treve. We shouldn't permaban people who show up and participate, even if they are a little bit demanding for hellos. Okay. Man, I tell you what. You go outside right now in Athens, and it looks like kind of like the apocalypse. And it's not because of fires, which it would be probably later in this year. It's actually because of all the Saharan dust that keeps blowing in from Africa. It sounds like something that wouldn't happen, but apparently it happens all the time around this time of year. Just all kinds of sand and dust blowing in the air. I live next to a mountain, and you can't even see the top of the mountain. It's just like light brown, like khaki-colored sky out there, and the nose is getting a little affected by that. So sorry if I got some sniffles, but that's because of the dust from Africa that's coming here to harass my my nasal passageways. Hello to Eric, nice to see you. Treve, Ashraz blue screen. No worries, Ashraz. The boss said so, says Fade. I don't feel good about it. Well, you know, you don't have to feel good about it because it's not your decision. It's mine. Oh, so he actually did kick Trev. Okay, good, good. So we need to teach Trev a lesson. You kicked him. He came back. That's fine. He understands now. He can't be so demanding. Tanamak says the Sahara dust sometimes even reaches Estonia. Wow, that's pretty far. Fate says, I'm just a fist in a glove. That's a good way to put it. A fist in a glove. You are the implement of my destruction. Okay, so what did we do this week? Well, not a whole lot, because I just kept making misstep after misstep. But the intention was to participate in the Spring Lisp Game Jam 2025, which I've been talking about for the last few weeks. It is a 10-day jam where people get together and work on games in a Lisp of their choice, even one that they wrote themselves. And it's a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun to see what people come up with and which Lisps or libraries they end up using for writing their games. We participated on this channel and on the Flux Harmonic channel a few times by now, maybe 3 times. And also, what else? Well, a bunch of other game jams too. But point being, I like writing code in game jams. It's a lot of fun for me. We stream it pretty often. We streamed last Wednesday technically, and then Monday and Wednesday this week on this project, and we're going to stream again today on the project. But because I'm still pretty new to Goblins, I made some errors in how I was dealing with things that kind of slowed me down a lot, and plus I didn't have a whole lot of time off stream to spend on the game either, so didn't make a whole lot of progress. That's okay. I think that we sort of validated that something like this is possible, and you'll see once we get the game pulled up in a second that the idea does work in practice. It needs some work. We need to actually build out parts of a world and make things actually operate like a game. But the concept works, and I think it would be pretty cool. I have a mind to continue working on it or something like it, because it'll be cool to have a web-based MUD out there where you can just sort of pull it up on your phone when you're bored and then go and kind of hack around in the fantasy or cyberpunk world with your friends. But yeah, it's a cool project. I'm happy that I started working on it, even if we didn't make a ton of progress. So as of the Altered Vet says, the distracting David Will game / baseline. Yes, well, it's gonna happen, especially now that I'm tired. Alternate Best says, I wasn't here for a while. It seems the atmosphere has changed pretty drastically. I'm scared now. No, I don't think so. Come on. I haven't gotten that mean, have I? Is that what you're saying? You're saying that I got mean? I didn't get mean. Maybe I'm a little punchier. Not punchy like the fist in the glove metaphor that Fade used, but punchy in the sort of banter sense, let's say. I'm just trying to expand the palette of things you can expect on this channel. Maybe for the worst, I don't know. We're just doing what we can here. Oh, I should say, all right, I have to admit, Crafter Hour streams are gonna have to go on a little bit of a hiatus. Left Path says, punchy in throwing a headset into a pile of Monster cans. Yes, so I think I have a problem. Actually, I've stopped drinking so much Monster. I'm down to 2 days a week, or 2 cans of Monster a week. I'm not saying this to make it sound like I have like a real problem. I'm just conveying to you that I know when to stop. So I've switched back to drinking cappuccinos. Wish I had one now. Fade says, summer toughened us all up. Summer, geez, man. Summer's been on a tear recently. I'm appreciating the she basically just kicks the door in on the IRC and just like wall of text and basically laying down the law and giving assignments to people and also talking about very inappropriate things in chat. Where's Summer Emacs? I don't know. She's probably off on another mission for the CIA right now. I'm on step 3 of 12, says Glennis. Which one is that? Denial? Bargaining? No, that's the stage of grief. That's not the AA steps by Summer Emacs. Anyway, where was I? Punchiness. Oh yeah, Crafter Hours. There we go. So Crafter Hours is gonna have to be on hiatus slightly. What shorts link are we pasting here? What is that? Common Lisp Indentation Agency. So anyway, after hour streams are going to be on hiatus briefly. I don't exactly know how long it's going to be, but I have some other things I need to attend to in the short term, i.e. Other projects I have to work on. So I will not have Crafter Hour streams on Monday and Wednesday for the following couple weeks at least. Plus, the kids are going to be out from school soon, and that's going to be a whole nother set of crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. So let's just assume that for now it's on indefinite hiatus. I got my old job back? No, I did not get my old job back. Nothing like that. I'm also working for the CIA. Sorry, I'm probably not supposed to say that. I'm joking. Okay, anyway. So yes, Craft Hour streams are on hiatus. No. Nothing like that. So anyway, I wouldn't bother trying that, okay? Anyway, so just had to say that. High school job at Burger King. Actually, I didn't work at Burger King. I worked at a hardware store that sold, building materials, lumber, sheetrock, plywood, cement, various different kinds of nails and screws, gloves, hammers, wrenches, these kinds of things, Worked there for a few years. Yes, no crafter hours for the foreseeable future. I will get back to it at some point, but not immediately. Same missions this summer? No. Home Geekspo? It was interesting. There was some interesting characters that worked at that place. Come on now, let's not be doing little rumors here. That ain't happening. It ain't happening like that. I'm actually gonna be joining a fishing boat to go catch a common type of fish called chipura here in Greece. It's a bigger operation. I'm not the one that owns it. I'm just working there. So I just have to perpetuate the fisherman myth that has been going on for a while now. Okay, anyway, thank you for redactions there, Ashraz. I appreciate the redactions. Let's get on track. So let me tell you what we did last time. In the last stream, we basically dealt with idiotic deadlock issues that I caused by not really understanding the right way to use Goblins in the context of a program that has a web server written with fibers, okay? Myth in quotation marks. Yes, it is a myth. It's not real. Thank you, alternate bed. Yes, I'm going to smell like the salty ocean every day. But, I think my family will still love me because I'm bringing home not the bacon, but the fish, so to speak. Yes, so I was having issues with the event loop of Goblins getting hanged, alongside the request handling of the web server. Less distractible now? Oh, dude, I'm so tired right now that I'm very distractible, but I'm trying really hard to keep on track. So, see, it's working already. Yeah, so we fixed that. It took a while. I had to basically not fully redesign how we do things, but I had to sort of split things into multiple vats. So for those of you who weren't around for the Sprightly run through, that was week before last, wasn't it? We did a Sprightly Goblins recap. We kind of went through the manual and tried some things out. And one of the core concepts in Goblins, which, okay, let me roll back even further for those of you who haven't seen this up until now. Sprightly Goblins is a framework for Guile scheme that is made for writing scalable, concurrent, distributed applications that can run within the same process or across multiple processes or across different machines on the network, over different transport protocols, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically a programming model that takes a lot from the actor model that you may have seen in places like Erlang, F#, probably Haskell has something like that. I don't know, but the point is that you have sort of independent entities that communicate via message passing, and that's pretty effective for something that wants to communicate over the network because you need to be able to pass messages between different endpoints on different machines in the network. So it's a programming model that is designed around this concept, but it also has a lot of sort of security features built in through the use of capabilities. There's a whole capability system. I don't want to get into all that. We don't really leverage it at all in what we did for this project. We sort of just leverage the actor model side of things mostly. But the idea is that you have the ability to write programs that operate concurrently and in parallel using the programming model that's provided by Goblins. And one of the core aspects of that is something called a VAT, which is really just an event loop that wraps the behavior, or let's say serializes the handling of behaviors of multiple actors. An actor is like a single entity in the system. It could be anything really. In our case, it's like, you know, an entity of the game or a room or an item or other things of that nature. So a VAT is a single event loop, but it seems that it's common to have multiple event loops. I only had one VAT, one event loop in the application we were working on so far. And somehow what I was doing, I think I was making some synchronous message passing requests that were locking that event loop and potentially also locking up the main Fibers event loop that was powering the web server. So I had to separate all that stuff out a little bit so that the management of user sessions was in a separate VAT from the actual operation of the game engine itself. And then that seemed to unblock things so that we were able to move a bit further. Fade says, how did you debug this? By banging my head against the desk while everyone sat quietly and watched and worried for my safety. But we made it through. Fortunately, I figured it out. Having some experience working with event loops and also doing asynchronous programming and working with the actor model in various different cases did help with that. So if I didn't know these things, I don't know how a person would figure it out, because it was pretty difficult to debug sort of psychically. But, you know, that's the kind of debugging that I prefer to do. Just print things out and then squeeze my brain and try to let the answer just come to me from the universe. Just drag the answer in from the ether. It doesn't really work. Usually it's just, you know, things that I know pop up from my subconscious and then, you know, give me an answer. But, you know, it's better to make it sound like I have some kind of magical, mystical powers, which I don't have. Ashra says, probably with sweat, tears, and a new keyboard. Well, no, it's still the same keyboard. Probably should get a new one though, because, you know, if you fist slam your keyboard enough times, the keys don't work. I don't do that. Okay? I'm just joking. So, let me show you. Should I show you the changes to the code so far? Should I show you the code so far? We don't have a whole lot of time, so I probably shouldn't belabor the point. Ashra says, the secret of most programmers, we can just search the internet better than you. Well, not really the case so much anymore, though, with AI, though. Ashra says, the secret of most senior programmers, we can just search the internet better than LLMs. Well, yes, I guess that is true in a lot of ways. I mean, if you've had to survive as a programmer for the last, you know, how long has the internet been out? Since the mid-90s, let's say. If you've had to survive as a programmer since then, whenever there were search engines and you could find programming information on the internet, then you probably are pretty well accustomed to finding what you need to find to unblock yourself. But when something like Sprightly Goblins, which doesn't have a whole lot of information out there about it, you kind of have to just go read the code, which we did a bit of that on Monday and Wednesday, reading the code of both Fibers and Goblins to try to figure out what was happening. That's really the pro tip in the end. If you know how to read code and understand what's happening, then, and the code's available, obviously, then that's even better than, you know, finding information on the internet sometimes. But, you know, there's many tools in the toolkit for a programmer to try to get themselves out of a jam. And LLMs will probably supplant a lot of that in the end. But at least for now, we can take pride in knowing that we have unique skills that are currently dwindling and will not be monetizable much longer. I am legitimately worried about that. Ashra says, I saw a LinkedIn post about vibe coding. I hate that term. I'm so productive. Post a screenshot of a 2.3 kilobyte file. Buddy, if your job is creating 2 kilobyte files all the time, then you're doing scaffolding, and that can be done by a script. If you were too lazy to automate it yourself already, I'm not worried about my future, but about yours. Well, it's getting a little bit worse than that now. I've seen some things that you could basically just sit there and let it write all the code for you. So it's not so much about scaffolding anymore. we're getting to the point now where you can just have a conversation and let it write most of the code. It won't be good code necessarily, but if you are an experienced programmer, you can pretty easily tell it what to change and it will go do it. So I don't know, man. Times are getting weird right now. A little bit weird to be in the job market right now. Like I've said before, if you've got a job, just hold on tight. Just, treat it like it's a precious thing, because you don't want to have to try to get another one. Listen to me. Listen to me. Okay, so let's just take a little look at the diff here. So what we did is we added an engine actor. That was actually kind of useful for the purpose of spawning new entities. So, okay, there's another class of things I was doing wrong with Goblins. So there is the ability to invoke or send a message on a particular vat from the outside, from outside of the event loop, using something called with vat. It's basically a syntax or a macro that allows you to sort of run a block of code in the context of a particular vat so that you can send messages to actors in that vat or to other vats, etc. I had some helper functions that were using with vat to send messages to things inside of the engine. And I think that because I was doing that, I was kind of gumming up the works a little bit. I know that's not very specific terminology. I'm sort of hand waving because I'm operating from intuition. I was doing things wrong and it was causing things to get hung when it shouldn't be hung. So when I realized by looking at some of Dave's code for Dave's submission, which, do I still have that link up? Where was it? Goblinville. So there's a project called Goblinville on the Sprightly org of Codeberg. Dave and Juliana apparently have been working on this. Let's see, who else? Anybody else? Yeah, Dave and Juliana have been working on this. I don't know exactly what they're working on, but they have an RPG style game with a tile map renderer. And they're using actors heavily, even in ways that I didn't think that you should, like having getters and setters for properties and whatnot. It seems like it's going a little bit too far, but I don't know. Like, they should know. They're creating this stuff. I'm not. So I kind of took a little bit of an inspiration from what I saw in their code base, and decided, okay, let me try to make more things be actors and send messages between them instead, and keep things in the scope of the actors in a vat or across vats instead of trying to poke it from the outside. And once I did that, that also helped a lot too. So that was one big change, setting up an engine actor that can spawn entities. At least it'll be doing other things at some point. I also sort of redid the way that I established sessions. So a session is when a user goes to the web page for the game, and it sort of assigns an ID to that user, and then that is used to identify their running session in the server, and then also the web page is polling for events using their ID. So that's how we know which player we're playing at any given point. So I had to sort of redesign the way that works, spawn the session manager, giving it an instance of the engine actor so that it can send messages directly. So we're actually having we already had a session manager actor. We had an actor also for individual sessions. Now we have the engine actor, and the session manager actor will get an instance of the engine actor to send requests to it to tell it to make an entity on behalf of the new player who just connected. So that's how we get a new entity in the engine, and then we can kind of go on from there. All right, let me see what's been said in the chat here. Blinky Bob says, sure, I want to get on a flight where the navigation system has been written by a vibe coder. Yeah, nobody wants to do that, that's for sure. Big Edie says, Vibe Pilot landed in all the simulations, though. Yeah, we can't really trust that. Ostro says, not landing at all would be more surprising, though. Yeah, they made it into orbit in a 747. We can just get rid of those rockets. Yes, do we know about constraints? S-Copy says, more viewers on Twitch than YouTube. Maybe an algorithm change. I've been having better luck on Twitch recently. Sometimes I get rated by... I've gotten rated this week a couple times by larger streamers. One of them was Zed Shaw, which was pretty surprising. Another was a game development streamer named Adam C. Eunice. So there's been a couple times where I've gotten rated. I don't know if I got followers from that, but definitely I've seen more uptick. Rated by the FBI? Not yet. They haven't learned. Well, I'm not going to say more about that. My illegal crafter coin conspiracy. LeftPad says, so you're saying I should start streaming too? Really? Sure. If you start streaming as LeftPad and you just like destroy JavaScript projects all day, I think that would do pretty well, actually. Yes, I'm that package. You should have one of those VTuber avatars. It should be an evil little imp that is just eating NPM package definitions or something. I don't know. Talk to Cal2001. He's got ideas on VTubers. Anyway. Voice changer or no voice changer? Well, it depends. Do you have a voice like that guy? What was his name? What was it called? Corpse Husband? Do you have a deep voice like Corpse Husband? Then maybe you don't need a voice changer. Otherwise, get a voice changer and make your voice sound like Corpse Husband. Is that his name? That guy kind of disappeared, right? I don't know what happened with that whole storyline. Anyway, point being, depends. Is your voice interesting? If not, make it interesting. You want to protect yourself from people figuring out it's your true identity? Then get a voice changer. They allow the reuse of voice. That's kind of weird. So people can just train AIs on your voice. Scary. Nobody could talk like me though. You would need the weird suppressed Southern accent and strange speech patterns picked up from a lifetime of being on the internet, living in different places, especially living with people who speak English as a second language, and then picking up other strange speech patterns. So, well, your something appreciates my voice. What is that? Okay, anyway. Suppress, it's too suppressed now, Big Edie. It's too suppressed, it doesn't come out. It only comes out when I go back home to visit my mother, and then I have to kind of fit in, because, you know, you don't want people to think that you think you're better than them or something, because you don't. But if you don't sound the same, then they're kind of like looking at you funny. You ever experienced that before? We'll get you a drink. Now, a drink won't do it. Only certain circumstances. Rumbletum Jum says the market will pick back up when all the vibed code needs to be fixed. Maybe. Drink on a debugger entry stream. Well, that would require, well, yeah, sure. Like if I have an error and it drops into the Guile debugger, that happens all the time. So we're gonna get hammered within about the first 5 seconds. Probably not a good idea. All right. Anyway, yeah, redesign the session management system, creating entities on session creation. Let's see, what else? And we still have to get the events for the session. So, all right, let me just run this thing so you can kind of see what it looks like. I'm pretty sure it still works. Control X PC. There we go. Okay. So where are we? Goblin MUD, right up here. I'll reload the page. Everything seems to be working okay. So I'm just gonna type in look, the look command, and it's gonna tell me about the room, a cozy room, whatever. I can't write room descriptions very well. This is kind of a problem, me trying to write a MUD, because I don't do a good job writing the actual text for the world, because I kind of get a little bit blurry and bored thinking about writing all the text for the world. Broken stream content. Oh, wow. Hold on a second. Thank you, scopy. Give me a second. I need to reload this page. So I was showing code that whole time and nobody said anything. How about that? It's coming. Trust me. Video Ninja has a pickup. Pick up. Blame the producer? No, it's all me. Give me a second. It's not working. You thought I was vibe coding. Trev, I don't do that. I hate that term so much. Why are you not showing the screen? Okay, I'm getting real confused. Do I need to like completely restart the tab or something? Okay, let's just leave that tab. Give me one little second here. I'm gonna start up Chromium one more time. The opposite of vibe coding, slack coding. That's what I do every day. Being a total slacker and not getting anything done. Okay, there you go. Sad coding. It could be sad coding. All right, so you see that? That's what the game sort of looks like. So I typed in command, look in the little box down here. Boom, a cozy room. That's all it does, okay? That's the only command. It shows you that something is working, but not really working too well. But it works. And this is all working through Datastar. Well, at least on the front end. Where is compilation buffer? Right here. It's just polling once every second for events, and whenever there are events in the event queue for the session, it just sort of grabs them. The events themselves are just fragments of HTML that get shoved in here, so it's really nothing special. Yeah, kites. It doesn't work, left pad. You're not going to get to destroy the MUD today, unfortunately, because it's not on the internet, because I didn't make enough progress. Ewig says the opposite of vibe programming is called, vibe coding is called programming. Yes, it is, I guess. All right, back to it. So, what was I going to say about that? That's kind of it for now. So on the routes, can't make it the only window, whatever. I would like to see the diff full screen, please. BC diff, thank you. That's the wrong one. All right, hold on. Let me fix this whole problem here. I'm gonna go up and press equal to get all the files in the diff. There we go. All right, so we saw that. Wait, did we? No. Entity. Entity changed a little bit. Not enough for it to matter. But the communication between the entity and the room did change because I'm trying to send more messages asynchronously. Yes, it's a long Coke can. I'm in Europe, so I have these little skinny tall cans. It's not like the American cans that are fat and short. I don't know why they do it that way, but it is what it is. So one of the things I was doing to mitigate the issues I was seeing with Goblins and the event queue issue is to try to do more asynchronous messages. So it did help, but in the future we might have to like go back to being a little bit more synchronous, but I don't know. The guy says, I'm in Europe too, and I don't have those. Well, that's all I've seen so far in Europe. I don't know what other places have different things, but interesting that they have different cans around. All right. Describe room. Yeah, we got the room description. It just makes a little HTML fragment. What else? Handle session command. What is this? Session.scm. We just took a look at that already. Yeah, fine, whatever. So I'm going to check in this code real quick just before we get started because I want to make sure that we don't lose the changes we made. So Control X VV. And what we're going to say about this? Improved session management with multiple VATs. I don't know. It's a commit message. I don't care too much. We're going to close that out. And we're going to clear the screen. We're going to press Cap P to push the changes. Boom. All right, so now, what do we want to do today? We're not going to finish the game. We're not going to get close to finishing the game. But what I would like to do, the bare minimum, is to make it so that you can walk between rooms, okay? Just to show that you can get around in the world, maybe see some things sitting on the floor. I don't know, like just have some interactive stuff in the game a little bit. So we're just gonna have a little fun here, trying to flesh out what little is there at the moment and see how far we can get. And we'll just have fun chatting at the same time too. So if you got any thoughts or questions or whatever, please feel free to shout them out as we go, because I have no hope for completing this thing, so who cares? So For commands, we find our commands, or at least the commands that we handle in session.scm, I think. So look. Right, so there's a handle player command procedure. Is the code readable? Should I bump the size up, or is it okay? There's a handle player command procedure where it's just a match expression. It's super simple, super dumb, I was gonna say. Now, what I would like to do, ultimately, is use a peg grammar, because there is a peg parser, Guile peg parser, and Kites knows about this because he's worked on it a little bit. There's a peg parser built into Guile that I could use for command parsing. I don't know if I'll get to that. Not really worthwhile to do it right now. We can just, split things on match and get pretty far without it at the moment. But yeah, it is possible to do that. So let's say we add some directional movement commands. So maybe in and north, and let's see, move to, move entity, perhaps, or entity move to, and then the direction would be north. Now, is there a better way to do this to not be so repetitive? Ashra says, the sleek can, they changed it to reduce required packaging. Yeah, actually that does make sense because the packaging they use here is like a little cardboard thing that gets glued to the top of all the cans instead of having like a whole carton around it, which is kind of interesting. See a lot of interesting things in Europe in terms of packaging and whatnot. All right, so move to north. That would work. Let's just go ahead and try to replicate north, south, east, west. South, east, west, south. Which countries have I visited in Europe? I have been to, can't say the UK anymore. I've been to Spain, Italy, Germany, Greece. I've been in the airports of other places. I've been to Paris. Well, Paris is not a country. France. I've been to France. So a few. I'm somewhat traveled, but I'm still just a redneck from the Southeast United States with a YouTube channel. All right, so we got south, east, west. North, south, east, west. All right, so cardinal directions, that's cool. That's probably good enough for now. Oh, right, and I screwed that up because this needs to actually be an or on match because I don't want it to be, ooh, there's another thing too that I need to do as well. So I jumped the gun a little bit on the syntax. So I think we need to have it be wrapped in parentheses because this is a list that we're parsing. Asked about Europe, not EU. Okay, cool. Rumbled Tum Jum says, Greece doesn't have Bojangles and sweet tea. Man, I would eat some Bojangles. That's for sure. I only saw Bojangles in Georgia, though. Not Georgia the country, Georgia the state in the United States. But it's pretty good. I would love a biscuit right now. Though, Chick-fil-A is similar. Not the same, but similar in concept. Okay. So that should work. Entity move to, let's go check out entity. Let's have I already have move to. So we got a log message here that should work. I'm gonna connect the REPL and see if we can reevaluate the stuff. And here's the thing. One thing I don't like about Goblins, because I'm not very experienced with it yet, is that there's not a way to easily replace the behavior of an actor that already is instantiated because you've effectively trapped a lambda inside of the object that can't be replaced. Because whenever you redefine this actor, it's effectively creating a wrapper around a lambda, I think, because that's what you do whenever you define an actor like the manual way in Goblins. So if you have a lambda that's in a closure of another object or another procedure or whatever, you can't reevaluate it and have it work immediately. The only way you'd be able to do that is if you define the procedure for the actor separately and then you redefine that procedure such that it can be updated. But you can't really do it inside the same module, I think. So there's some limitations to how REPL-based coding works in Guile, plus with Goblins, that makes it harder to do true REPL-based development. But like I said, I'm not necessarily an expert. I'm not even close to an expert. In fact, I would say I'm doing a pretty poor job of using Goblins. So don't listen to me too much about whether this is possible or not. Dave Thompson or Christine Limmer-Weber would be able to tell you a lot better than me whether it's possible. There are ways to probably get around it. I just don't have time to figure it out now. So we'll probably just be restarting the server in most cases, I would say, because we're changing the behavior of actors that could be running. Anywho, move to direction. Entity name, entity direction. Is entity name still a thing? Entity name is still a thing. Okay, so we got session, we got our commands. That should be good enough. It's not really going to do anything yet, but that's fine. So let's run the game again. We're going to interrupt the compilation. You're going to start it over. And then we're going to jump back into the Goblin MUD page, reload. I'm going to type in N, and it says entity anonymous moving in. Okay, so it did pick it up. Let's go do the other ones as well. Let's just make sure that south, E, east, W, west, north. Let's see, moving south, moving east, moving west, moving north. That sounds right. So the messages are going through. We just need to wire up the behavior so that it will actually, the entity will move around. We also need rooms that it can move to, which requires us to spend a little bit of time making that work too. Let's go do that. We're going to go into room.scm. I need to double check what's in here. Dave. Where are you, Dave? Let me see. I didn't see the YouTube side. Dave says, yes, this is something we're working on with Define Actor. We want more live hacking features like that. Yeah, it's going to be really important, I think. And I'm sure that you're dealing with that too while you're working on your entry for the jam. There are ways around it that I think have overhead. Like if you basically define an actor, if you define your actors in one module, and then you define your actual behavior functions in another module as actual top-level definitions, and then use them in the body of the actor, then you could easily redefine the behavior functions in the other module and have those get picked up. But that's a lot of overhead. That's a lot of complexity in designing your actors and your modules. So probably not the greatest idea. So we're just gonna stick with what we've got for now, but I'm definitely interested to see what Sprightly folks will come up with on that front. Pretty much anything is gonna be a relatively hacky solution. It might be nice if there's like a flag that can be used somehow whenever initializing goblins, or like a cond expand or something that can turn on a development mode or a debug mode such that the way that the actor gets defined leverages a definition that can be replaced in a way that enables live reevaluation of the behavior of actors that are currently running, because the way that actors work, I mean, replacing the function is kind of like the whole point, but you're not replacing it the same way that Goblins expects them to be replaced, by using the become procedure that gets passed into the actor. So it is a little bit weird. Anywho. So now we're looking at the room actor. This is the one that each room. All right, let me roll back for a second. I decided to split the responsibility of defining the metadata for a room from the actual functioning of a room, so that you can define all of the room information in modules as record type instances, and not have to immediately have an actor be defined for them. One big reason for that is because you need to be able to spawn an instance of an actor, and you can't do that at module initialization time because you need to have a VAT running, and there's a lot of things that need to happen. So the alternative is you need to have in each room module an initialization function that can be called after the VAT's already initialized to do all the spawns, which also feels a little bit dirty. So I went with a different model altogether, which is define the room information as a record type instance, and then on demand, whenever a specific room record type instance needs to be used in the game, we will spawn a room entity, plug in that information, and then have a hash table that maps the record type for the room, the record instance for the room, to the running live actor for that room. That way we can kind of have the best of both worlds. But it does mean that we won't be able to reevaluate the details of a room and have it show up correctly whenever we're doing live coding. So we will have to restart the game in a lot of cases just to edit room details, which is not great. There's a lot of things about this that aren't really great. I think it would take some time to really figure out the best approach to having a live hackable MUD that's written with this framework, where the metadata for the game can be updated live while the game is running without disturbing things too much. So I think it's entirely, excuse me, I think it's entirely possible. It's just not something that is very easy to get working right now in this stream, since we only have about an hour left. Okay, so the starting room is in the foyer. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it. We define the starting room, which is the only room so far that we have. It's the starting room, cozy room. You're standing in a cozy room with a roaring fireplace. Very evocative language I'm using here. Sign on the wall says head north to get started. So I guess we need to head north. Let me see. Define public. Let's see. So what I'm imagining is a room where there is an entity there, an NPC, that asks you what class you want to be in the game. So as of the moment, I'm thinking of 3 classes, like a fighter class, a mage class, and a thief class, because that's, you know, the core 3 types of classes you run into in role-playing games, fantasy role-playing games. There would be an entity there that would ask you this question, and then that would dictate what your class is going forward. So a little bit of interactivity right at the beginning of the game. Also, the point is that this is kind of like a game that is not meant for you to have a long-running character. It's more of a net hack style experience where you start a character and you kind of go until you meet your certain doom, and then you start with a new character and continue forward. So we're not going to be too precious about keeping the information of the characters serialized to a database or anything like that just yet. It's sort of meant to be a live experience. Anywho. So the next room would be the one where you choose your class. So it could be the class room. It's terrible, terrible name, but that's what we got. Make room. Name. I don't know what to even call this. See, I'm terrible at this, okay? Like, I'm trying to write a MUD, and I'm just not good at all at writing the content for a MUD. The class room is awful. It's terrible. Someone come save me from myself. Description. Rustation says, may I ask you something off topic for later? Have you uploaded any video on YouTube comparing Emacs and NVim in terms of performance? I have not, because I haven't really spent any time using NeoVim at all. Like maybe 30 minutes total. It would take some time actually using it full time before I could give any input on that. And it's not likely I would do it because I'm kind of, you know, let's say married to Emacs, for lack of a better term. So, description. Posters of fantasy RPG classes adorn the walls. A clerk sits behind a large oak desk, beckoning you to come forward. Let's just go with that, okay? So we need to have a link to that room. Let me see what I did to define links between rooms. Okay, exits. On this one, we need exits. Right here, exits. And this is going to be an A list, I believe, between the cardinal direction symbol like north, and the room definition. So class room. Okay. So now we have a link from starting room to classroom. What we should be able to do is in room, teenage boy covered in acne, beckoning you to come forward. Sure. I mean, it could be like that. Fits with the fantasy posters. He probably also needs a Rush poster, right? Rush would be the most appropriate choice. Let's see, what else? So we have our room definition. What is the interplay between entity and room when it comes to moving between rooms? So I have some messages already here, like entity enter, and entity leave. What should I do? I think what I should do is have a get room or get exit direction, or get exit room. Get exit room. Okay, so what it will do is it will get the live room. And where is that defined? Get live room. Okay, so get live room. We're going to use a list ref. No, a sock ref on the a list of room exits. This room. Is that right? No, room. Okay. Because room is this variable up here, was passed in originally as a procedure parameter to the actor. So we have a soak ref exits room direction. All right, so that will give us the room. I sort of addressed it, Ashra, so don't worry, you don't have to copy that one. Have you compared to VS Code in terms of performance? So comparing VS Code to Emacs in terms of performance is kind of meaningless in my opinion, because it's not about the raw performance of like loading files. It's more about workflow and how you can be productive with the editor. And I would say that you could be a lot more productive from a overall workflow standpoint with Emacs than you could be with VS Code. Now, VS Code will make certain things easier, like maybe running a debugger or integrating with cloud providers if you have debugging tools for cloud providers, or things that, you know, like a large company would write an extension to VS Code for, or something like that. It would definitely be better from that perspective. It really ends up being about like your comfort level using a text-based interface like this and understanding the value of it and being able to leverage it correctly to be more productive than a person who uses something like VS Code. Now, I'm not saying that people that use VS Code aren't productive. I'm sure there's plenty of highly productive people using VS Code. At a place that I worked, there were many people using VS Code, and they were quite productive, really experienced programmers. But it's really about what is most productive for you in the end. And I don't think that performance really matters. And I don't really know if performance was really the question you were asking in that case. Maybe it's productivity. Big Edie says, I hate to admit it, but VS Code is honestly quite nice. Well, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be nice, okay? It's supposed to be useful. It's a tool made by a company who wants you to use their tool. Not like Emacs, which is a tool made by people who like Lisp machines and are not afraid to scare you with a white background screen and a 1990s looking program and hope you figure it out. Big Edie says, I'm forced to use it at work. Yeah, that's not a great thing to be forced to use something, but there are worse tools that you can be forced to use, like Visual Studio. Or Eclipse. You can be forced to use Eclipse. I would not want to do that. I'm sure that those of you in the audience can think of a number of other IDEs that would be way worse than using VS Code. So, NetBeans, exactly. Cal says Lisp machines are the point. Yes, they are the point, but a lot of people don't get that. You're just like a person using a Linux machine, and you're like, oh, cool, what's this Emac thing? And then you run it the first time, and then you're like, what is this? This looks like a clunky notepad. Yeah, you're not going to know what's in there. You're not even going to know that MetaX exists or what it contains. So, like people use VS Code, they're like, wow, it has a command palette that tells you all the commands you can run in the editor. Yeah, MetaX existed for 40 years. Okay. Why can't I exit this editor? Well, I don't think you really have that problem with Emacs, because usually you end up in the graphical editor, you can just click the X button. But I see your point. Bloodshed Dev CPP. I've not heard about that. Ed, you know, I looked at Ed recently just because it's a meme, and I couldn't figure out how to get out of that. The Kite says, I tried with Emacs a little bit, and it felt a little bit uncomfortable to me, too long with Vim and opening and closing the editor super fast. Well, the Vim workflow is very different than the Emacs workflow, okay? Because the Vim workflow is very, like, you know, Unix philosophy centric, where you're not really supposed to stay in Vim all day. You're supposed to be in the terminal jumping around and then like editing files using Vim. But NeoVim kind of like takes that to a more Emacsy standpoint, you know, kind of leaning into having the larger session type deal, I believe. So yeah, Vim can have a different usage pattern, and you probably won't have like a super heavily configured Vim. You'll have stuff in there for sure, like packages and, you know, themes and whatnot, but not like Emacs where you're trying to literally do everything in your life inside of it. It's not quite the same. So yeah. So let's see. All the NeoVim frameworks trying to turn it into Doom. Yes, I see that for sure. Lazy Vim, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's basically Doom Emacs in a sense. Yeah, so that's the difference between using Vim correctly, I would say, and using Emacs, is that you're supposed to close Vim. You're not supposed to close Emacs. When I start up my desktop environment, Emacs starts up and it never closes unless I have to close it for some reason. Usually Emacs lasts as long as my actual session on the computer. What is my Emacs uptime? Emacs uptime. 7 days. Okay, that's not so much, probably because I had to restart for some reason. But the point is that you will basically stay in Emacs as long as your computer is not crashed. LeftPad says, maybe I should take the Rustations use case and have a stream on that. First stream, why chat is wrong about BS Code versus Emacs. Perfect for the first stream, non-controversial. Well, you have to be controversial to get views. And because I don't really like being controversial so much, it makes me itchy. Not in a literal sense, but more in a, you know, moral sense. I just don't really try to step into that too much, but it actually has to be. Has to be done. Spoken like a vibe streamer. Yes, of course. Rumble Tum Jum says, remember EXWM? Pepperidge Farm remembers. Yes, I remember EXWM. Those were some cool days, but in the end, I'm much happier with the Sway experience because Sway stays out of the way when I use Wayland. Yeah, so that's why. So, get exit room. We're trying to get the room from the given direction, and then we're going to run it through the get live room procedure. Now, we actually have to check to make sure that it's not null first. False, let's say. Let room. So we're going to do a little let here. And room, get live room, leg. I don't know where my brain's going. Get live room, and what is the parameter to that? Just the room. Okay, good. And okay, live rooms is a hash table that's being defined at the top level. Probably not the greatest idea, but whatever. So get live room up. I'm starting to wonder. Maybe I need an actor to hold on to the live room information. We'll have to see. So, get live room. That will return the live room, and then whoever is calling this, if they get back false, then obviously they'll have to return an error of some sort. All right, so that gives us the room. Back over on the entity side, whenever, oh yeah, we got move to. So first of all, let room, next room, What was that? We're going to send a message to the current room. So we're going to send a synchronous message. We kind of need to have a synchronous message on this to get the value back immediately. We can do another thing, which is, what is it? We were using it in session, I want to say. Let on. Let on allows you to do a let binding with an asynchronous message. So you basically wait for the asynchronous message to come back, the response to come back, and then you have a let binding that automatically puts it into the binding as you would normally see. We don't necessarily need that. Let's try it with a synchronous message first so we don't have to go through that whole problem. So, next room. We're going to send a message to current room. Current room. No, get exit. What was it called? Room. Get exit room. All right. Get exit room. Cool. If next room, or when? Yeah, we need an if. If next room. So, that's going to be an actor. Let's see. If next room, we need to do a couple things. First of all, we need to tell the previous room that the entity left and tell the new room that the entity has entered. Then we need to update the current room inside of the inside of the entity actor. So current room is next room. All right. We're going to send a synchronous message. Current room. What was it? Entity leave. And then the entity is the parameter. So this entity. All right. I screwed that up. Then $, current, next room, entity enter this entity. All right. So that's sending messages to both of those so they update their state. Otherwise, we need to send an event to the listener to say that that direction does not have a room. Okay. So in this case, we will, let's see, actually, we won't do a begin here. We'll do an and initial listener. The nice thing about this approach also is that move to direction is generic in the sense that it would work not only for a player character, but also an NPC that needs to do a move to a specific direction. So it doesn't matter what type of entity this is for. We're trying to make the entity concept a bit more generic than what it is for a player. So if there's a listener, which means there is a session attached to it that needs to have events that are happening, then we're going to send an event. Let me see, where am I doing that? Right here is describe room, entity, display event, okay. Display event, listener push event. So this will allow us to show an error effectively. So for a div, we can do a format here. Format false. There is no room in the to the. There's no exit to the. Okay, how about that? Now let's just use direction, but we're gonna have to map direction to a name at some point, which is very easy, but I'm not gonna do it just yet. Let's just wait. All right, so we got that and initial listener, and then we send the message. Boom, 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 boom. There we go. Move to direction. Okay. Add direction looking capability. It's going to be a similar thing. All right. Now, current room, next room, current room, get room, if next room, current room, got it. Entity moving, we're gonna get rid of that line. We don't need that line anymore. I think that's wrong. Okay, let's restart the game. Hopefully the code compiles. Looks like it compiles. We're gonna restart. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna press north. Okay, we got a little exception here. I'm gonna kill the server. Wrong number of arguments to get exit room. What did I do wrong? Get exit room. Whoops, I didn't put the direction in. That was dumb. Exception, drink. Yeah, you can go for it. So, what then? What then? That, I think we're good, but okay, the other thing is, we need to describe the new room. When the player enters the new room, we need to describe the room to the player. Entity enter, describe room entity. Okay, that's good, that's good. We also need to store the entity in the entity list for the room. So entity leave, we should say set entities. So for Guile Surfy 1, where are the rooms maps saved in code? In the code. All right, deleting. Delete. Containing the elements list were equal to X. Did I already check multi-user interactions? What is that? This is all concurrent in the concept in the context of the engine. So we don't have to worry about like race conditions or stuff like that. At least I think we don't. So delete X from list. All right, so delete entity from entities. I'm sure I could use the mutable version of that, but I don't want to. Then, we haven't gotten there yet, Ashraz. It's possible we could see it today, though, because it's designed in a way where it could happen, but we need to test it out first. All right, so set entities. We're just going to do a little const entity onto entities on that. That's all great.